Hey guys, welcome to another Six Sages Gaming Deck Spotlight. Today we have a Dark Alice brew, which is a water, fire, darkness fun build. Top to 8 out of Italy, so it's definitely well tested. And before someone says just dies to split. We've been running a couple variations on it, but this is the original list. So Darryl, one of the members of Six Sages Gaming, has been piloting this deck, so he's actually going to be doing the deck spotlight for this video. So Darryl, why don't you give us a little bit of the overview of the deck, and then we'll go into the rulers, the stones, the main deck, and even his sideboard that he's been using for our locals.
All right, with this deck, it's all about stressing their resources and looking for an opportunity to just get in all the damage you can with Alice. The deck doesn't play fast. It's a slow burn, but it gets the job done pretty effectively. It does have a few tough matchups, but we address those in the sideboard. And overall, I just think the deck has a lot of game right now with our local meta, and it's just strong.
All right, so we'll get into the ruler, stones, then the main deck for you guys.
So the ruler for the Dark Alice deck is Dark Alice. On the front side, she just has the simple ability to pay 1 black, remove a card from an opponent's graveyard into exile. Her judgment requires that you have at least 3 cards in exile and doesn't cost anything. And after you judgment her flip side is a 9/9 target attack. When she comes into play, you get to choose a number and kill all resonators with converted mana cost equal to the number that you chose. Her God's Art for 2 black. You essentially get a blanket effect for the rest of the game that gives all of your opponent's resonators -2/-2, and you get to look for her corresponding regalia, Schrodinger, the Fallen Black Cat. Dark Alice regalia gives you buffs based on the number of cards you have in your opponent's exile. If you have 5 or more, your ruler gets +5/+5. If there are 10 or more, she gets swiftness, target attack. It taps to produce 1 color of any will, and you can sack it, and she will gain imperishable till end of the turn. This is a way to really get through damage once you flip your Dark Alice. And the mana fixing is actually pretty relevant with this deck because of sometimes you'll have blue, but you won't have red, or you'll have red, and you won't have blue. So Schrodinger really kind of helps with casting some of your spells.
And a quick note about it as well is when you give it itself imperishable, you can find a way to sacrifice Dark Alice by just ramming it into something, and then you can use her judgment ability again, and then use that board wipe effect for a certain cost again. So it can really be a way to clear out the board from problem resonators as well. So granting imperishable is very relevant.
We also run Marybell. The damage reduction that Marybell provides is very relevant because of Flames of the Outer World. I found can be quite rough. You know, flipping Alice and getting her double flames is the worst feeling in the world sometimes. And also, with the way this deck operates, Marybell's ability to turn into a creature is very relevant, and destroying regalia is always a great thing to be able to do.
Pretty relevant in today's meta.
We run Laev as well. Cards, anything that gives your J-Ruler swiftness is great. Being able to sack other resonators that don't have a lot of usefulness to you, like cats, for example. If you're not going to block with them, you might as well get damage out of them. The mana ramp that it provides is also good, and the imperishable, you can't have enough imperishable. You just can't have enough of it. Laev a great card. So run bows. Bows are kind of a necessary evil in this deck because of the way it operates. It's so slow, and some of the red decks that will just try to kill you, in 2 or 3 turns. This helps slow them down and stress their resources enough to give you time to set up your Alice kill and take over the game. So that's all that.
All right, then moving into the 1-drops of the deck.
We have the Scorn of Dark Alice. This card again is just another way to stress out their resources. You know, picking apart their hands, taking resonators that this deck might have a hard time dealing with. You know, and even just to give an information of seeing their hand is very relevant. And of course, we have Cheshire Cat. This card is just great for chump blocking for days, you know, getting deeper into your deck and putting back Schrodinger because drawing it is not a good thing.
The literal worst.
It is pretty bad. It is pretty bad.
And also, because you're running Demon Swords, you get to banish it to force a shuffle in your deck, especially if you don't want that top card. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Our 2-drops, we have Stoning to Death, which is just another way to stress resources and get rid of hard to deal with permanents. Between Stoning to Death and Alice's God's Art, or her Enter effect, you can really control the pace of the game. And I think this card is just great in this deck. I think it's a great card overall, but in this deck it shines very brightly. We have Mozart as another 2-drop. Again, just another card that you board it and they have to really think about attacking you. I mean, chump blocking and taking another guy with him is just great. And that's another card that you can sack to Laev in and get value off of it. It's good early game, it's good late game. It's just never a bad card to see in your hand.
And because you're running so much removal, you can shape the board in a way where if they have like an Arthur, let's say, you can Stoning to Death and Flames the Outer World the rest, and then get Mozart in for that last bit of damage with a Resonator you wouldn't be able to deal with normally.
I'm sure we're all familiar with Hera and how great this card is. You know, this card, it's pretty apparent why you run this card with all the regalia running around. You know, boarding a 5/5 for 2 is always feels good. Drawing a card off of it and setting the back of regalia feels even better. I feel like if you can cast this card, you should probably play it in every deck.
And then blowing up your bow and it's out of counters is also very relevant as well.
If you can't cast this card, you should probably redo your deck so you can cast that card. It's just that good. It's a little bit of a techie card. Lora the Blood Speaker. She provides chump blocking. She allows you to find another Lora and, you know, just chump block for days. She also allows you to find any vampire. And this deck, as you'll see later, runs a 1 of Elizabeth, which is just a problematic resonator for a lot of decks. And it also can fetch up a Carmilla, which again is just another way to stress resources. We also have Cinderella the Ashen Maiden. It is great in the early game for controlling their board, you know, boarding a cat, sacking it, dealing 200 damage to everything on their side of the field is just again another way to stress resources. And she can sack herself, so if times get tough and you really need that extra 200 damage, she can provide it for you. Flames of the Outer World is a card that I haven't played with too much, but after playing it within this deck, I just don't know how people play without this card. It's great in a lot of matchups, and it's great. I mean, it's just an all-around great card. It kills some J-rulers, kills problematic permanents, and the fact that it can't be responded to it's really, really strong a lot of the time.
This is one card I'm going to miss very much when it rotates.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what we're going to get in its replacement, but I hope we get something.
I don't think there's going to be anything that replaces that card, and it's going to make me sad.
So, moving on to the 3-drops, we have that one of you was mentioning earlier.
Here's our 1 of Elizabeth. When I initially saw the list, I wasn't super hyped on this card, but to be fair, I can't read Resonator Shadow/Vampire very well, and it took me a while to figure out that you could tutor for it off of Lora, and then I go, oh, now I get it. I mean, the 900 on the back end is great for chump blocking, and you know, her ability to gain 400 and untap. You know, there's some games where you'll just board this and you'll just end up killing him with this in a combination of flames and stoning to death. This is an all-around good card. For our 4 drops, we have the aforementioned Carmilla. Again, just a really solid card, capable of killing anything that isn't a vampire. So take that, all you resonators that are trying to attack me. It's great blocker, great attacker, and being able to tutor for it is, just really strong in this deck. Then we have Mephistopheles, the Abyssal Tyrant. This card is a great backup plan if your J-Ruler gets killed, or you didn't have enough time to exile enough cards from their graveyard. Boarding this guy and 15/15 flyer with target attack is really strong, and doing damage whenever they target it is just another way to get cheap incremental damage and make them think twice about it. Put them in a bad spot. Do they want to take 500 damage and get rid of it, or do they want to deal with a 15/15 flyer? It's an all-around good card. For our stones, we run 4 Magic Stones of Dark Depths. Those are for our cats and our Heras. It's the only blue sources that we have. I know that some other members of the team have moved to splashing the Regalia stone to fix mana, but it's probably not a bad plan. But I'm a naturalist. I'm sticking with what I know. Along the same lines, we have Magic Stone of Scorched Bales. Just for your red, your flames. Mostly just for your flames, really. I mean, there's a couple sideboard cards that we use that need red, but this getting one of these on turn 1 or 2, knowing that your flames is turned on, makes your opponent respect the fact that you can just kill anything that they play that early. This deck also runs a Grubalesta, the Sealing Stone. This card is great with bows, and you can kill your own Mozarts with it if they refuse to swing into him. You can just kill them and get value off of them that way. It's an all-around great card. And the last stone that we have in our stone deck is a Little Red the Pure Stone. Ideally you want to name black, but I have played games where I flipped it over and had a cat in my hand, had to name blue, and it's not the best feeling in the world, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. So that's it for the main deck and the stone stack. We can move on to the sideboard. We run 3 Rapid Decays in this deck. I think the original list had them as glimpses, but with my local meta being full of people who are trying to cast Red Deuce with Swiftness and turn them sideways, this is just another great way to get rid of Lancelots and Heras and a bunch of other 2-drops that are just kind of a pain for this deck to deal with. And again, it just keeps the board clear, stresses their resources. Also on the board we have the 4th Flames. I board in the 4th Flames against J-Ruler centric strategies because with Valentina being able to tap before she untaps her Regalia and get the buffs that way, being able to have 2 of them in your hand to kill her when she flips is very relevant. Just can't have enough Flames of the Outer World. Horn of Sacred Beast might seem like kind of a weird card in this deck, but you come across another deck that's trying to grind you out. Between Horn and Alice's ability, you can really start grinding them out slowly but surely. And it's just, I don't know if the card's great, but I think it's the card that you want to play in this deck just because of what it does. It's one of my personal favorite cards from the sideboard, the Spiral of Despair. I'm actually thinking about finding a way to make this the main deck card. I mean, it's not good in some matchups, but a lot of the times spiraling and exiling just to flip her over, it gets you there. And again, name of the game is shrink their resources and put as much stress on them as you can. Death Sice, the Life Reaper, I think this card should be in every sideboard. I think this card's just too good not to play. It's in there again, for J-ruler based strategies. And you know, the pump is always good. You can never have enough pumps. And it goes great with Blazer, as it turns out, which is, again, like I said, there's some hard matchups. A lot of them involve Valentina and all of her various incarnations. You know, this card may not kill Valentina, depending on what they have, but them having to battle through a Blazer, combine that with all of your stress that you're putting on the resources, killing their dues, all the flames. You know, this card alone can just win you the game a lot of times. And the last 3 cards we have on our sideboard are Barrier of Shadows. Again, just because I hate playing against Valentina. And you know, it's just another way to slow her down. Like I said, the deck has to turn the corner, and this helps you get there. It drags the game out a little bit longer and might give you those extra 1 or 2 draw steps you need to flip your Alice and start going ham on them. Yeah, that's the Dark Alice deck. Like I said, I think the deck's good. There's probably some room for some improvement, but overall, I think it's a strong choice. It does take a lot of practice, and you have to really prioritize your removal and be aware that, you know, the cat trigger on the stack, you can exile that. Same thing with the horns. It takes a lot of practice, but I think if you put in the reps for it, you'll enjoy the deck as much as I do.
All right, guys, and thanks to Darryl for taking the time to record this deck spotlight with us. As always, we're featured out of Gamers Gauntlet in Clinton Township, Michigan. So if you guys are looking for any Force of Will singles, make sure to check out gamersgauntlet.net as a place to buy them. And of course, if you guys like this deck spotlight, we've actually recorded a versus video already. So make sure to check out our Duel Series playlist where you can find this deck in action. I think we did the Ruler's Memorial list for that video, but it's a very similar shell. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Make sure to drop us a comment down below. Be sure to like the video. If you want to see future content by Six Sages Gaming, make sure to hit the subscribe button right below. Thanks again to Darryl. We'll catch you guys on the next deck spotlight. Have a good one. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more, make sure to hit subscribe or check out one of our other video series. And don't forget to stop by the Force of Will US website for articles, a helpful database, and more.